Welcome to the Miss Francois Show. We are closing in on the end of season 4. I know you guys are going to miss me, but this is why I made sure this show was exciting and fun. And you're going to remember this young lady, Miss Heidi, because she is a polyamory coach. I know you all have no idea what it is. You should Google it. An educator and a therapist. So today, oh girl, you're gonna be so excited what we're talking about. But I'm gonna let her talk all about it, and I'm gonna ask her some interesting questions. What you all been thinking? So hi Heidi, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, you should be thankful that I, Miss Francois, have you on. Today, I'm so excited. I was talking about this interview for like the last few weeks because people is like, I can't wait to hear what these answers to the questions that Miss Francois has for her is going to be. So we're going to dive right into it. Tell everyone what polyamory is.
Yeah, absolutely. So polyamory is both the practice and the philosophy of loving more than one romantic partner. So it's the idea that you can have multiple romantic partners at the same time with the knowledge, and this part's really important, the consent of all parties involved.
Okay, so you men who are whoring out there and have multiple women and not telling your wife, that's not the same thing. So we want to make sure you understand. That's why she said, okay, consent. Everyone knows. Okay, with that said, one of the biggest thing I wanted to ask you, because I've heard you on another podcast and you mentioned that you use the word partnered when it comes to relationship. And I desperately want you to explain what that means. I'll listen.
Great. So yeah, the question was, are you in a relationship? And my answer is, well, I'm partnered. And there's lots of reasons why I prefer to use the term partnered than in a relationship. One is that I think when we say, are you in a relationship, what we're doing without meaning to is we're elevating a romantic relationship above all other relationships. Because if you say, no, I'm not in a relationship just because you're not partnered, that can actually negate all of the other relationships you have. I mean, I imagine you probably have a lot of rich connections with friends and family, and that those people, those are relationships. And so when you say no to the question of, are you in a relationship, if you happen to not have a partner, it's really focusing in on just that one relationship and missing out on all those other relationships.
But one thing I would say is that when people ask you in a relationship, most of the time they're asking, who are you sleeping with? That's the person we're talking about most of the time. Who are you sleeping with and how is it going? Are you still with that person or not?
But if I have, let's say I have like 2 or 3 really loving, authentic relationships, and someone says, oh, are you in a relationship? And I just say yes, then I'm having to act as if I'm only in that one relationship instead of, or I can out myself and say, well, I'm in 3 different relationships.
They're like, oh, Heidi is a hoe. But so I understand what you're saying. As I'm here to just tell you that most people won't agree, but we will just take what Heidi just says, partner. I hope you understand what she means, regardless if you agree or not. Because some people be like, well, I like using relationship, and even if I said partner, it's not anybody's business to find out if I'm with more than one person. The point is I'm in a relationship, regardless if it's 10 people or one person. But we'll leave that there for now. Like you said, there's a lot of stigma associated with polyamory, right? And one of the things I looked at, you said 4 things you should stop thinking about polyamory. So just tell me what are 2 top things that people should stop thinking when they hear that word?
Okay, let's see. So the first one is polyamory is not cheating. It is not even in the same universe as cheating. Polyamory and cheating are 2 completely different things. So cheating is, like you mentioned before, that's when you are having affairs or relationships outside of the monogamous or whatever agreement you have outside of your relationship, and you're not telling the person that you're with that you have other partners. So it involves lying, deception, and not getting consent from folks. Whereas polyamory is everyone's on board. Everyone knows that there are multiple relationships happening. Everyone might know each other, maybe not, but in some forms of polyamory, folks all know each other and there is consent and buy-in and everyone is informed of what's happening. So, and it involves a lot of communication, a lot of honesty, which I think neither of those things really are present when we're talking about cheating. So the other thing that comes to mind immediately is a lot of people think that polyamorous people don't get jealous, or, oh, I could never be polyamorous because I get too jealous. And that is a really big misconception, because of course polyamorous people get jealous. We're humans, you know, everyone experiences jealousy at some times, or at least most people do.
Yeah,
And
because I wouldn't want to be partnered and then Heidi's getting more attention than I am. And I want to know, why is Heidi more special and she got an extra hour than I did?
there you go. So it's jealousy exists. And so when people think that people who are polyamorous don't get jealous, it actually minimizes the work that polyamorous people do, because we have to work through our jealousy issues. We have to work through them. We have to, when the feeling of jealousy comes up, we can't just say, hey, don't have other partners, just have me because I'm jealous. We don't get to do that. Instead, it's like, what am I feeling jealous about? What are the feelings coming up for me? What are the underlying beliefs? What are the assumptions I'm making? And is there a reasonable request I can make of someone from this place of jealousy? Or is this just something I want to kind of look at myself and take care of?
Okay, all those are great questions, but just you saying the question, I got exhausted and I already saw myself trying to fight the person. But guys, don't do fighting. But I'm just saying, I'm so exhausted that I guess you have to pause, reevaluate certain things, think before you make all these extra assumptions and make up a whole story in your head and create a bigger issue than there is. Ooh, polyamory is not for me, because I already made up a bunch of stories that's not gonna go off too well. And I know a lot of people out there like, You see how you mentioned in the beginning, it's not cheating, it's totally different, because the main thing is the other person knows and is consensual. What is the difference between that and swinging? Because some people be like, okay, that's basically the same thing. Because you said in those relationships, sometimes people might know about each other, and then some people might not know about each other.
So in swinging is falls under the umbrella term of non-monogamy, but it's different than polyamory. Swinging usually involves one or sometimes two couples who are having sex with each other, or one couple who's having sex with other people, but usually they are doing that together jointly. And the other thing is that swinging is kind of more of a recreational sexual activity. And it doesn't tend to involve love or romance as much as just sexual play and exploration with other people, which is very different, because polyamory does involve love and does involve romance. And often people explore that individually. It's not necessarily the couple exploring that together, like it most often is when we're looking at something like swinging.
I must say, you have these answers so well. I see why you're a therapist. I see why you're an educator. You could have me thinking like, this is really, maybe I should think about it. You're good, Heidi. You're good. I'm almost brainwashed, almost, but not there yet.
Well, it
Okay,
certainly
well,
doesn't sound like polyamory. I mean, you seem pretty clear that polyamory is not for you. And I think that's great. I think monogamy works well for lots of people. And it sounds like you might be one of those people.
yes, definitely am. Right, honey? You're watching this, right? I just want to make sure my man watching. Don't ask me to switch over. Okay, you mentioned find a community before dating. Yeah, before dating and when you're looking for a polyamory relationship. Where is this community? Because one of my friends said he would like to know where these community are and how do he go about getting into this community?
I love these questions. You've obviously done some deep digging into some of my work here. So I very much appreciate that. So the reason that I say to find community is that with any minority or fringe or stigmatized population, it can be really isolating and lonely. And if all you have around you is monogamous folks who are not really able to understand what you're doing, or may be judgmental, or may just not be able to offer you the right amount of support, or the right kind of support, finding that community is so key, so that you have friends and you have other folks in your life that you can see the kinds of relationships you want reflected back to you. And you have friends who have that paradigm shift into polyamory, who can give you sound advice. Now, I think it's very dependent on where you live as to where you find these communities. But one really great resource is, and I don't work for them, I'm not plugging them, I just use them a lot, meetup.com. Where I live, there are many meetup groups. So meetup is like a platform online where people like organize in-person events or digital events.
Yeah.
So where I live, there's like maybe like 3 or 4 different polyamory meetup groups, and they do different kinds of events. Some of them do picnics, some of them do game nights, book clubs, discussion groups. I'm part of a group that does, well, in the pre-pandemic times, we did a karaoke event once a month. And so this is a place, these communities are places to meet folks, build friendships, and start to really feel a sense of belonging.
Oh, sorry. Oh, a sense of belonging. See, I missed that part. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's another really...
Because Heidi, you know what it is? As soon as people hear polyamory, all they keep thinking is sex, 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 and more sex with many people. I think
that is such a huge misconception. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions around polyamory, is that like sex is the most important thing. And it's like, sex is just as important in polyamory as it is in monogamy. So it's like, if someone's like, oh, I'm looking to find someone new to like, as a life partner, it's not like the first thing you're like, oh, are you going to bang? Are you going to have sex? What's it going to be like? So it's a lot of sex, right? I mean, yes. If you're, unless you're asexual, then yes, sex is a part of it, but there's so much more to it in monogamy and in polyamory. You've got to be compatible. You probably have activities you like to do together. If you have kids, you probably like to spend time together with your children. If you like to travel, that's something you do together. You plan things together. You do like the calendaring, you do chores together. So like, it's a whole fleshed out life, not just sex.
All I heard was sex, but thanks for that explanation. Y'all pay attention to Heidi. Leave don't let me sway you in any way. All right. One of your posts, yes, I did do my research. It says 4 signs that monogamy mindset might be sneaking up on you in your relationship.
Yes. I wrote that post a long time ago.
Okay.
I'm sure there's lots of good information in there, but I don't remember the specific things I mentioned.
So basically, is if you're in a polyamory relationship and someone decides, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be, like you said, jealousy enters, and all of a sudden they want to go back to just being with one person. Like, what do you do, and how do you even start to tell someone else who wants to sleep with 100 people that I want to be with you and I want to do the one-on-one thing?
Well, I think that's a great question. And that does come up because...
Yeah, of course. I'm the host. Always great questions.
Always fantastic questions. So sometimes people do find that, they try out polyamory and they may decide at some point, I don't think this is for me, because it's not for everyone. And if that's the case, I think the best thing to do is to be honest with all of your partners and to let them know, like, hey, I care about you and this relationship structure doesn't work for me. And so I'm going to be stepping back from it. And I think the key thing here, and this is true the other way around, and I'll say what I mean by that in a minute, but the key thing here is to not coerce or pressure the other person to be monogamous just because you want to go back to monogamy, because that wouldn't be ethical. So you can say like, hey, I'm going back to monogamy. Polyamory doesn't work for me. I really hope that you join me, and I'll understand if you don't, because you may have other relationships that you care about. You may have decided that polyamory is what makes the most sense for you. And what I mean when I say it goes the other way too, is if 2 people are in a monogamous relationship and one of them comes to the other and says, hey, I've been doing a lot of reading. I've been doing a lot of thinking. I realize that I'm polyamorous and I need to be dating more people. It's not fair for them to say, so you have to be okay with that. You have to also date more people, or you have to let me date more people. That's not fair. What I think when these things come up is you have to be willing to walk away from the relationship and say, I'm really needing to do this for myself. If that doesn't work for you, I understand, but we'll probably need to part ways. And this is a hard thing for people to understand, is that like in polyamory, there's a deep respect for everyone's autonomy, and that we can't coerce or pressure other people to do what we want, whether that's be monogamous or be polyamorous, or to be with a certain person or to leave a certain person. So ethics are a really big part of this and come into play, so that people are living their values and in line with their ethical standards.
Wow. Good for them. I guess I still have a lot to learn. So we had mentioned jealousy prior, right? And when jealousy does enter into those kind of relationship, what exactly should people do? Like you say, we could have a discussion about it, but I'm really angry, I'm frustrated, I'm jealous, I don't like how this is. How am I supposed to be okay when I'm not okay anymore?
Oh, I love that question. That's such a good question. So I actually have a free 5-day mini course that folks can sign up for, where I break this down, but I'll give you the summary of it here. So essentially, when we talk about jealousy, jealousy is really 3 different things wrapped into one. The first thing that jealousy is a physical body response. And so what I mean by that is our nervous system gets activated. So if you imagine when the last time you felt jealous, did you feel it somewhere in your body? For most people, it's like a clenching in the gut, or the increased heart rate.
Yeah.
Or a tightness in the chest. And so the first thing to do is to notice what's happening in the body, and then do the soothing to relax the body. And there's lots of different skills one can use to do that. I list a lot of them in the course, but it might be things like taking deep breaths, doing a mindfulness activity, doing some sort of self-soothing to bring the body back down. Because the other thing that happens when our body is activated, we don't really have access to our best self and our best thoughts. The second step is really looking at what am I feeling right now? And when we talk about jealousy, jealousy is usually actually a bunch of different feelings. It's usually not just one feeling. So there may be anger, hurt, fear, frustration. And so looking at those feelings can help break it down into, okay, I'm hurt. What is it that I'm needing right now to soothe that hurt? Or I'm afraid. What is it that I'm really afraid of? Can I get curious about that? And again, in my course, I go through a lot of different strategies for this. And then the final one, and this one is really powerful, is our thoughts. So I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, don't believe everything you think, but what
I actually haven't.
Okay, so what that means is that we can have all kinds of thoughts that run through our head that may not be true. And when we're in that nervous system activation place, our brain actually thinks those thoughts are real, even though they might not be. So an example is, if I see my partner kiss someone else, the thought might be, they don't love me anymore. They don't want to be with me. They think that other person's a better kisser than me. I don't know any of those things to be true. I'm making all kinds of assumptions, and my mind is running away with those. So if we can take a look at, what are the unhelpful thoughts that I'm having? And are these based on certain beliefs, certain assumptions, or certain things that I've been trained to believe that may not actually be true? And then we start to kind of challenge those beliefs and say, what's actually accurate? What might be more realistic? Can I check out some of these assumptions that my brain is running away with and see if they're actually true? And there's all kinds of strategies and ways to do that. And again, I get into it more in my course, but I think it's just a really powerful way to like bring ourselves back, because our thoughts can really run away with us sometimes and take us to some wild places.
Believe me, I know.
Yeah.
Thank God I don't have any warrants out right now, because my thoughts. So this is my thing, right? When you explain polyamory, it seems like there's so much other people can learn. What is the 1 or 2 things monogamous people could learn from polyamory people?
Yeah, I think there's so many lessons for folks who are just monogamous through and through that can still be learned from polyamory. I think one piece that's really important is that the expectation that you or your partner will never be attracted to anyone else is unrealistic, and it's an unfair thing to put on someone else. So just because we maybe, even if you're monogamous through and through, and even if you are deeply in love with your partner, you will still find other people hot. Like, it doesn't mean you're going to sleep with them, but you might find other people hot. You know, you might find people on TV or people on the street and be like, that person's pretty fine. And that is not a betrayal. And that is actually just a natural, normal part of being a human. And so giving ourselves and our partners permission to do that, and not seeing that in itself as a sign of infidelity. Another really powerful lesson, I think, is that it is unrealistic to ask our partners to meet all of our needs or to be everything to us. You know, there's a reason that we grow up in community and we, you know, are raised in like villages or cities or towns, because we exist in communities so that we can get all of our needs met from different people. You know, we get different needs met from our friends than we do from our partners or from our parents.
But I'm not sleeping with them.
But why would sleeping with someone mean that they are suddenly obligated to meet every single need you have?
You're 100% right. I'm just telling you the things that people keep thinking.
Yes. And that's I'm so glad you brought that up, because that circles right back to those thoughts and really challenging that, like, why is it that I think that the person I'm sleeping with has to be my everything? Why is that? Where did I learn that? And like, how fair is that? And I think honestly, and I'm, you know, a lot of people say this, I'm not the only one saying this, but like, that is it can sabotage relationships. And it's a reason I think some relationships don't work out, is because people put too much pressure on their partners to be everything. It's like, oh, you don't want to go to the movies with me. Like, that's not cool. You have got to go to the movies with me. It's like, why? You can go to the movies with other people. If your partner doesn't like going to the movies, don't force them to go. Do other stuff with them.
True, very true. Oh, fine. You have so much good points. I'm angry.
I know you hate it.
And so how does marriage enter into this? Because when two people walk down the aisle and they say these vows under God and all this under fun stuff, how does that come? How does a polyamory enter into that?
Well, I mean, I think that's different for every couple, but what I do notice is that a lot of folks who are polyamorous who get married actually write their own vows and write vows that make more sense for them. So they're not about like, I will forsake all others for you or all of those things. They take those out, and instead it's like, I vow to be your partner and to support you and to love you and to like, you know, grow with you. And they take out the parts that don't apply. And that's the beautiful thing about these days. I think, you know, lots of people are writing their own vows, not just polyamorous people, lots of monogamous people write their own vows too. And so I think being very intentional about the language that they use when they make their marriage vows can be important.
Very good point. And my thing is, and since you've been doing this for so long, the therapist, the educating people, that whole life, do you find that it's more women that gravitate to that sort of life, or is it more men? Have you seen a difference?
You know, it seems like to me, what I've noticed is it seems a pretty even spread across the gender spectrum. However, at least in the beginning stages, I think a thing that surprises people is that women tend to have an easier time in the beginning than men do, is what I've noticed. And that's not true for everyone, but it seems like people socialized as women and like femme presenting folks tend to just have an easier time of it. And I think that's for lots of reasons. I think it's how we are socialized. And I think it's that it's easier to, in the polyamory world, it's easier to find people to date as a woman than it is as like a man or a masked person.
And since so many things are changing, you know, we just in a different space right now in 2022 compared to 1960. Do you think more people are moving on a whole to this sort of life compared to the monogamous life?
I do. I think I don't have the numbers on it, but it does seem like more and more people are becoming interested in it, are exploring it, and getting curious about it. It does seem to be trending that way.
And is that because I like the more, is it more freeing in sort of a way? Because I guess when it's just two people, like this is what it is, these are the rules, you're not allowed to do A, B, and C. You feel so constrained. When how you explain polyamory, it seems more freeing, it seems more open, it seems like people talk more. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah, I think that it is like the transparency, the communication, the honesty, and like the expansive community, honestly, because a lot of people talk about how they feel like, you know, their polyamorous folks are their extended family. And, you know, for folks who have kids, a lot of polyamorous folks who have kids talk about having more resources, you know, more
Oh,
adults.
babysitters.
Yeah, more
Babysitters.
adults to help with the kids, more shared income, like more people to just be around and making sure that like folks are safe and there's always the responsible adult. And, you know, that is a big piece of it. But I think even beyond that, it's I think especially after the pandemic, and like I don't have any proof of this, this is just me kind of guessing, but my hunch is that when people were in lockdown with just their partner, it becomes clear how unrealistic it is to expect our partner to be our everything, you know, to be our, you know, just like emotional support and our best friend and the person we have all the fun with and the person we, you know, also like
True.
gossip with, and we watched all the same TV shows together and they want to read all the same books. And like, it's, you know, I think that's really unrealistic. And I think monogamous people realized that was unrealistic too. But for some people, I think it made them realize like, maybe I can have like multiple people and different folks can like connect with me in different ways.
Or you find out this is the person I really want to be with, and this is wonderful. Like you said, different things for different folks. Some people could try it out, it may not work for you, and it may work better for others. So each his own. But I think what I did get from everything you said is every side just need to be more understanding and less judgmental. So if you understand the whole, you know, the polyamory part, or you choose to be with one person, whatever your lifestyle choose to be, that's the person choice. Let's not judge others, but we're still going to.
But hopefully we'll aspire to do it less.
Yes, I'll let you have that one. One for Heidi and for Patrice.
Perfect.
So with that said, thank you so much for coming on the show. Just tell people where they could reach out, where they could find your course, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So the free course, the free mini course I mentioned will be at my website, which is shelovesradically.com. And I'm also, a lot of the things you were mentioning and the posts are on Instagram. I put a lot of content up there, and on Instagram, I'm at shelovesradically.
Awesome. As always, guys, I got you. I'm going to put it at the bottom because you all know you ain't going to remember nothing she said, right? All you're going to be thinking is she must have a lot of sex. But anyway, anyway, thank you so much, Heidi. You guys know exactly where to find me. We're ending season 4. So check me out on my website, that's MSS Francois, and I'm on every social media platform. Thank you so much, Heidi, and continue living that polyamory life. I'm just gonna go call my man and make sure he ain't cheating on me right now. All right. Have an awesome evening, my dear.